Be me. I have been a truck driver for well over 5 years of my life now. It took a while to get used to. The road at nighttime can get pretty isolated and lonely. You have to really get used to those quiet nights. Most of the time it's just me, the truck, and the dull hum of the engine. This night was different to the usual. It was one of those rare nights where you got human interaction, where something actually happened. Sometimes you craved it in the boredom. This was a night that made me crave the isolation again. I think it was around 2 in the morning. I think I had just hit Route 47. Route 47 is a stretch of highway that to me seems to go on forever. I swear, whenever I drove down this thing, the urge to sleep hits me the hardest. There is nothing around it at all for miles, aside from a few fields and a couple gas stations scattered around. The sleepy feeling had hit me, so I thought it best to take the opportunity to stop, refuel, and maybe douse myself awake with something. The highway was absolutely empty at this time. I had not seen anyone for miles. There was, I think, one other vehicle at the gas station, but I think it was just some guy sleeping. I refueled, bought some dirt cheap energy drinks, and then set back off. Decided to put on some low intensity music so that hopefully the miles would fly by. After about 13 minutes of driving, I started to get a strange feeling. See, when you're a trucker, you kinda train yourself to be alert at all times, to watch out for anything slightly suspicious, things that a normal person would not bat an eye at. It's like a trucker's sixth sense to be able to just feel when something fishy is going down. I spotted a car behind me. It was a small sedan. Nothing unique about it. Black and very plain. Looked like it had either just come out of the factory or being cleaned top to bottom. It was an older car though, so it must have just come out of the car wash. It started out a ways away from me. Not staying away at stopping distance, but the kind of distance where you were hoping you would not be noticed. Over the next 15 minutes, it began to ever so slowly make up ground on me until it was insanely close. I am lucky I even managed to notice the car, because the fucker had his headlights turned off. It was uncomfortably close now, just hovering behind my rig. There was plenty of space on the road for this guy to go past me. This wasn't just some random driver in a hurry. He showed no signs of moving either, no signs of slowing down. I decided it was best for me to speed up. Whoever this guy was instantly matched my pace. It did not matter how fast I accelerated or for how long. He stayed right behind me, tailgating me. My chest felt tight now. I had dealt with assholes on the road, with crackheads at rest stops, but I had not had anyone acting this weirdly while driving before. Like I said, there was no one around for miles, just our 2 vehicles on this stretch of road. The next stop was not for miles either. I decided to see if I could lose him. I took a sharp turn onto a smaller back road, hoping I could maybe shake him off. He followed me though, barely lost an inch on me. No hesitation at all with his movements. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was very clearly targeting me. Fuck. I sped up again and started swerving as quickly as I could through the turns. I hoped I could catch him unaware. That's when he decided to turn his lights back on and nearly blind me. I could see his face in my rearview mirror now. Well, not exactly. He was wearing some kind of a mask. Not a balaclava like a robber would wear, but some kind of weird plastic mask. I could not really make out what it was, as I had to focus intently on not crashing. He was not alone either. He had another guy with him. This guy was not in his front passenger seat though. He was laying low in the back, gripping something underneath his arms. I was sure he had a gun. This was going from bad to worse for me, and I did not have a clear way out. My only option was to make it to the next gas station before they fucking killed me. I took another turn and was pushing my truck to its absolute limits at this point. The guy in the sedan was obviously getting restless or twitchy or some combination of both, because now he swerved to the side and tried to ram me as I went to make another turn to the right. I had a split second to react and had to swerve and go the other way. He hit my bumper, which was enough to jolt me and send me swerving across the road. My hands were sweating and I could barely grip the wheel. I tried to speed up again to put more distance between us, but it did not help. Every time I tried to make a turn, he would swerve at me and stop me from making the turn. He wasn't just trying to ram me off the road. It seemed like he was guiding me somewhere. Every time I tried to make a right turn to loop back, that is when he would swerve at me. The sinking feeling in my stomach got more and more intense. The engine in the car behind me was roaring now. I thought at any second I was going to be forced off the road into a ditch, and then I would be fucked. I had a 9mm in the glove box, but there would be no guarantee I would be able to grab it, or hold on to it, if they sent my truck barreling over. I had no idea what the guy in the back of the car was strapped with either. I couldn't exactly call the police. I take one hand off the wheel, divert my attention for even a second to grab my phone, and I could so easily crash, and then I would be done for. I was just doing everything that I could to just stay in control. As long as I kept moving and I kept upright, I could deal with whatever came next. The road was still empty after a little while longer, and I had gotten another idea. It was risky, but it could work. I knew he was going to try and swipe me again. My instincts kicked in, and I tried to catch him off guard. I hit the brakes and swerved, and he shot past me, almost fully spinning out. He got stuck off the side of the road on a little patch of grass, and I knew this was finally my chance to get the fuck away from this guy. I hit the gas. It was the worst moment of my life. They really were leading me to a trap. Off of both sides of the road, just up ahead, in front of where the sedan had hit the bank, people started to swarm out onto the road. 5, 10, maybe 15 people in total came up the banks and swarmed out onto the road. I didn't really have time to count, but that's my estimate. Each and every one of them had those same plastic masks on. They had sprung a trap for me. They were desperate to keep me on the right path, and this was why. I could make the details out now. The masks were white, with the face of what looked to be a rabbit, with big, pointing ears. All of them had that exact same mask. Some kind of markings on them that I could not make out. Looked to be symbols or something, I don't know. It was fast and kind of a blur. They were armed. Knives, baseball bats, you name it. I count my lucky stars, they did not all have guns. They started running toward my truck. These fuckers were crazy. I sped up as much as I could and just managed to swerve past them. I knocked down one or two who attempted to jump and hold onto the side of my rig, but the momentum was too much. The sedan was still up ahead though. The guy with the gun had gotten out, while the driver had set off onto the road up ahead of me. He took shots at me. I was being fucking shot at on a fucking public highway. I was genuinely in disbelief. If I had been unlucky that night, the bullet from his gun would have hit me in the head, instead of grazing my ear and taking out my window. He kept putting rounds into the body of my rig. I counted 9 of them, and then he stopped. I'm guessing he had to reload. The sedan up ahead was messed up, and the driver made one last desperate swerve to stop me. He hit the handbrake and skidded so that the car blocked the road sideways, but I had enough momentum to send the car flying. I just gunned it. My brain did not have time to make sense of what was going on, and I was not interested in sticking around. I didn't even stop at the gas station. I just kept going, just in case they had another vehicle to follow me with. After what felt like forever, I reached some shitty small town. I stopped at the gas station there. I stopped, cut the engine, and had to take about 15 or 20 minutes to just breathe. I had never felt like this before. I always felt smart and unstoppable, especially when I was on the road, and this was the only thing in my life to ever just shake me like this. I jumped out of the truck and ran into the store. I could barely catch my breath. The cashier gave me a funny look when I walked in. He looked like he was falling asleep, but his eyes went wide when he saw the state I was in. He asked if I was okay and glanced out the window as he did. I stumbled on my words and managed to blurt out, "They tried to run me off the road and kill me." "He had a gun," was the only other thing I managed to say before I had to breathe again. The guy told me to chill and called over the cops in the town. Took them 5 minutes to pull up, probably the quickest I've ever seen a cop respond in my life. Him and his partner brought me over to sit in the cruiser, and once I calmed down, got me to give them the rundown. Their faces went from barely paying attention to almost scoffing to really wide-eyed looks. When I mentioned the mask is when they really started to pay attention. They stayed silent for a few moments. Then one of the officers made a phone call, which seemed weird. He had a radio right there. Didn't take it in English either. Spoke on the phone in Spanish. After he was done, he told me he had put out an alert to every officer within a certain radius. Told me that they had had several people go missing from the town lately, mostly visitors, all near that highway. I was still on high alert, so when the other cop told me, "Let's get you to a motel so you can rest and give a full official statement in the morning," I immediately refused. Told them I needed to get back. They did not try and argue back. That was the end of it. I don't know what the deal was, but I don't think I want to know. Why would they go to all that effort to jump a random trucker? I did not have anything anywhere near valuable enough. What could they possibly want with me? I have not been on the road since that incident. Anytime I even consider it, I get the shakes. It all started when I was a child, living in the town of Dean, USA. I was 7 years old, out in the garden playing with my sister, when my father suddenly came out the door with his rifle. Mom was right behind him and told us to go inside and close the door. We heard some gunshots. We did not see anything, but when they stopped, I could clearly hear my father whisper, "We'll just tell the kids it was a badger." I forgot all about that in a matter of weeks, but it came back. One night, when I was walking through the local forest back home from a friend, I was about 12 years old, and his older brother had told us that there was a monster living in those woods. I did not believe it. But then, too far from my friend to go back, I started hearing twigs breaking. Naturally, I sped up a bit, so did the breaking twigs. Something was following me, but I did not want to assure it that I knew of its presence, so I acted naturally. I kept hearing twigs break and leaves brush, but no grunts or other animal sounds. I gradually walked faster, and finally, I could see the light of my house in the distance. I could not take it anymore, so I started running. So did the thing behind me. I was maybe 100 feet away from the door, and I swear I could feel it breathing down my neck, but I never turned to look. I ran faster than any kid would run. By the time I reached the gleam of the house, I could finally hear wheezes from its throat. I made it to the door and slammed it shut behind me. After catching my breath, I decided to see if there was anything there. I was expecting to see the relief of nothingness, but instead, I saw a big dark creature, the size of a bear, just sitting outside the beams of light, staring at me. I could not quite make it out in the dark, but the eyes glowed yellow. Nothing interesting happened for a while, and by the time that I was 15, I believed it all had been in my imagination. Until some friends at school talked about the creature of the woods too. Being a teenager, I naturally felt the need to show how tough I was, and I told them I did not believe in it. In fact, I said, "I am going to show you just how much bullshit it is by challenging it." My friend from before said he would join me. Dusk came around, and we found ourselves in a nice clearing in the middle of the forest. At first, we just sat there, talking, but when it got darker, I started getting impatient. I said I did not believe in it, but I was still waiting for something to happen. After a while, my friend said he had to go home. I think he was getting scared. I only grew even more impatient and started yelling out at the dark. "I don't believe in you," I said. "Well, come on, I'm right here," I said. I grabbed a rock and threw it out behind a tree. "Let's see if you're so frightening as you've had everyone believe you are." I screamed out into the shadows. Right then, I heard something. It was the sound of breaking twigs. The hairs raised on my back, but I was determined this had to be a person, or an animal of sorts. The breaking moved around the clearing, as if to taunt me while I stood frozen in position. When it slowly came towards me, I started backing away a little. It was still too far away to see it, but I did not want to leave yet. But I changed my mind when I thought, oh shit, it's tearing down trees in its path. I darted the fuck out of there, just like when I was a kid. This was all too familiar. Just that this time, it wasn't just twigs breaking. I ran all the way home, certain that it was right behind me. Like before, I locked the door behind me, but that was not enough this time. I could hear it slamming against the walls of the house. The whole place was shaking and trembling. Neither my sister nor my parents were home for the night, so I was all alone. I armed myself with a knife and ran into my room to put on some music as loud as it went and tried to block out the traumatizing event. The rumbling continued for seemingly hours, and it seemed as if the house could be ripped up at any moment, but it wasn't. After some time, it all stopped. Right before my parents came back, the house had not suffered any damage, it seemed. My parents both acted as if everything was normal. The final event was another year later, when another friend told me he had a huge crush on this one girl in class, but she was already in a relationship. He told me he was willing to give his soul for her. I jokingly told him he could try and sell it to the creature in the woods. He actually thought that was a good idea. I told him it wasn't, but it could not be helped. Not even 1 week later, the girl left her BF for him. They did not stick together for long, however. After only a few weeks, they broke up, and he was torn to bits about it. Before that happened, he was one of the most energetic people I ever knew. He had so much going for him, and now, he has become a homeless junkie who digs through garbage bins to look for food. It has been years since I moved out of Dean, but I might return one day to try and figure things out. But I won't until I have a trusty companion to assist me. If I do, I will tell you the rest of the story. Deepwood Patrol was usually the worst and most boring part of our job. We called it that because you went so far off the damn trails that you weren't going to see any human life other than the person they sent you with, and half the time, you lost radio reception, if you were lucky enough to get the Jeep with a working radio anyway, and walkie-talkie reception was a definite gone for the most part. You spent a good 8 hours walking around in the true middle of nowhere, trying to hit an area of the map that had not been X'd yet. When you were done, you drew a circle around the area you surveyed and X'd it so that everyone else would know that the area had been patrolled. Once every area was hit, a new map was printed out, and it started all over again. The purpose of this is because, well, people are assholes. You weren't just spending 8 hours walking in the middle of nowhere. You were looking for signs of poaching or other human encroachment in areas where there should not be any. That particular Wednesday, my assigned partner was Joe. The good thing about working with Joe is that he was the other guy who did not smoke weed or drink booze while walking deep woods, so you got done in about half the time and could sit back in the truck and bullshit with someone sober as you drove through the area in hopes of scaring off any poachers. I'd done this once a week for a month and a half and had never seen a single sign of human life until that Wednesday. I was 2 hours into deep woods and had just lost radio contact with Joe. It wasn't that big a deal, usually cleared up as soon as one of you cleared a hill or got past the large grove of trees you were standing in. I walked another good 10 minutes after losing contact, and everything went dead silent. I enjoy silence, mind you. It was one of the best parts about working as a ranger. You could find some nice, real quiet, but dead silence was different. Dead silence is when the only sound is your own breath. No insects, no lizards, no wildlife. No wind rushing through the grass or trees. No sounds other than your own. The grass you stomp on becomes muffled. You can't even hear it. No crunch of rocks underfoot. No running deer or rabbit that catches wind of you. Just your own slow and irregular breathing. Then I saw him, a man, running a good 30 yards off. He darted out from a grove of trees. I thought it was odd I could not hear him running, but I took off after him anyway. It was pretty stupid, I will admit, but I had a foot on him and more muscle, and he was not carrying any sort of visible weapon. Furthermore, if he was out this far, then he was probably lost and scared as fuck. But that was all a lie. I had to follow this man. I was compelled. I didn't really want to. The whole thing seemed wrong somehow. But I did anyway. I chased him for an eternity into the damn woods before he went over the hilltop. Then I followed. I lost sight of him there, where there was nowhere for him to run anymore. I stood on top of a little hill, overlooking more forest, and I slipped. The ground gave out. It was soft dirt, and I should not have stood there for so long, but I was intrigued. The ground gave way under my feet, and I slid down the hill. Well, more like tumbled. Luckily, I had a walking stick that I stuck into the soft hillside. It broke off, but it slowed me, so I stopped a good 2 or 3 feet in front of the spikes sticking up from the ground. It was a hunter's trap, obviously. Lure an animal to an unstable hilltop, then pull it out from underneath. It rolls into a pit lined with sharpened sticks. It was cheesy and ripped out of a B-rate movie, but no one ever accused poachers of being particularly bright. There were, however, a couple of deer down there, and a rabbit skeleton, and one human male, mostly decayed, wearing a very familiar set of clothes. I don't know for how long I looked down into that pit, but when I roused myself to get my positioning, it was starting to get dark. Joe finally came in over the radio, and I directed him down to the pit from around the hill. We double-checked the coordinates, crappy-ass instruments anyway, and went back to the station. They called Fish and Game, who showed up on Friday, and questioned me for a good 1 to 1.5 hours about what I saw and how I found the pit, before letting me go to town for the weekend. That was the last time I worked Section 9B of Deepwood. Damn, you must tell us more adventures about your Deepwood checks. That is freaking scary. So, who was the man? That was the only interesting thing that ever happened during a Deepwood check. Every now and again, you would find a bear trap or some other type of trapper gear, or a makeshift hovel someone was using to shoot out of. The entire purpose was to find evidence of poachers. The guy turned out to be a missing person who disappeared from the campgrounds several years before. Not sure if he came out that far to do some poaching and got caught in his own trap, or if he was just out hiking, got lost, and fell into someone else's. I have some other stories from a few of the rangers who were there as long-term people. I was a summer hire that I wrote down in an old blue notebook, along with some other ghost/spooky stories I've collected over the years. If I can find the damn thing, I'll type them up. I'm going to preface this by saying I never believed a word of it, partially because it's fantastic, and partially because Trevor, while not being a complete and hapless liar, was the wood's biggest stoner. He frequently volunteered for Deepwood because he could smoke pot for 4 hours and no one would care. He claims the following story happened to him in the first month he was out there, back before they made you do the Deepwood shit in pairs. It's an almost word-for-word account, with only a little changed because it was obviously embellished or because I could not read it. I am also going to note, the guy was in his late 50s and started working here in the 70s. It started at nightfall, man. I was going back to my truck to wrap up for the night when I saw her, man. It was the hottest chick I'd ever seen. Flowers in her hair, dancing inside this circle of mushrooms with some fireflies. Flowers was the only thing she was wearing, man. That was it. I was just gonna watch her for a bit, but I had to get back to my truck to get my stash. I tried to sneak by so that I could just come back and light up, but she must have heard me. She grabbed this blanket and started to take off into the night, and I decided to follow her. I mean, she was hot, naked, and in the middle of the woods, miles from anyone else. Someone had to take her back to the campgrounds, man. I chased her for like 20 minutes before she disappeared into this group of like 6 trees. Nowhere to run where I could not see her, and nowhere to hide inside. So I call out, "Lady, I'm a ranger, man. I can give you a lift back to the campground or something. I can't leave you out here. You're not supposed to be here. You don't have to worry though. I ain't gonna tell anyone about you, but I do have to take you back." I waited a few more minutes, but she did not say nothing, so I walked over to the trees so I could talk to her face to face and shit, but she wasn't there. Just disappeared into thin air. I shook it off and went back to the truck for my stash. A month later, I'm back on Deepwoods in the same area, so I think, what the hell, and go back to that little circle as I'm leaving. Sure enough, she is there again with like 3 friends this time, all of them hot and naked and dancing in that little circle. I will also interject that hot to this man was 2 breasts and a vagina. I've scoped this place out now, so I know how to approach men. I walk up along the side, real quiet like, and step out of the trees like 2 steps from the shrooms. I am inside that patch before they can react, and I am completely expecting all of them to run off or something. But the redhead, the one I saw the first time, just smiles at me and takes my hands and starts to dance with me. Her friend starts taking off my clothes, and I'm like, hell yeah, free love and shit. Funny thing is though, that is the last part I remember, and it was at about 2 in the morning when they sent someone out after me. He finds me, naked as a jaybird, lying down in a circle of mushrooms all by myself, my clothes spread out, and the only tracks other than mine are of these 3 deer. I tell him my story, and he does not believe me, but next day's a Saturday, so for my off day, I go back to that circle and follow those damn deer tracks. I followed them tracks for like 12 miles, man. I am past our detail area into the real, dark, thick, untouched woods, man. And that's when I see it. A white deer. All white. Beautiful looking doe. She just looks at me with these sad, sad eyes and stamps the ground. I know it was her, man, and I know I messed up. I go back to that little circle of mushrooms the next night, and they are gone. Whole fucking circle just packed up and moved. Only thing I know for sure though, is that I would trade anything to know what happened between when I started dancing and when I woke up, man. Be about 8 years old, playing with one of my friends, 7ish, in my old house in Pennsylvania. We are upstairs in one of the rooms that is not used, which stores my parents' old records, my father's weightlifting equipment, etc. The room is the only room in the house that is not painted white. It's a weird pale yellow, extremely hot and stifling no matter the time of the year. I am afraid of this room for some reason, so naturally, my much more fearless friend wants to dick around in it. We pull out the record collection to look at the cover art for a while. This is the last thing I remember before my friend is screaming at the top of her lungs. The next thing I know, my friend has gotten her entire hand stuck under the barbell, pinned in between the barbell and where it rests on the rack. The barbell has at least 40 pounds of weight on it. We are both 2 tiny girls. We could not have lifted that. How the fuck? I freak out and go and get my dad to lift the barbell off of my friend's hand. She has to go to the hospital while I am grilled for a while about how it happened. I am still freaking out because I don't know what happened. The last thing I remember before she started screaming is the 2 of us looking at records. We were not anywhere near the weightlifting equipment. My dad ends up concluding it is my friend's fault. She already has the nickname Disaster Abby because she tends to break shit in our house and fall down the stairs. I'm satisfied with that. Years later, my family is getting ready to move to Texas, reminiscing about stuff that has happened in this house. Suddenly remember the story, mention it to my dad, ready to laugh about Disaster Abby. He tells me the story gives him the creeps. What? Why? The yellow room it happened in was originally the bedroom of the young daughter of the previous homeowners. She died in there from an accident. My dad found that too weird and just made it a storage room. What the fuck? Accident? The previous homeowners were under investigation, negligence, but never charged with anything. My parents never told me about this because they did not want to scare me. Too spooky for me. Thinking of it now, 20 years later, I am more amazed that Abby's parents did not sue my family for their kid getting hurt. As far as I know, Abby's hand was fine, and we just never played in that room again.